Jack Hama is an extremely important character to me. The most astute will surely have noticed that the profile picture of this channel is nothing more than a sketch of this character's face. I'm sure more than one person who didn't know the character just had their mind blown. I could spend hours here talking about what Jack means to me and how much I've identified with him in one way or another at some moments in my life. But that would be going too much into the personal realm. And for this occasion, I would like to focus on talking about the character and a bit of the vision and perception I have of him. Jack is Baki's stepbrother, the main character of the manga sharing his name. The two of them are sons of different mothers, and only share being both sons of Yujiro Hanma, the main antagonist of the work. If anything, works like Cinderella have taught us from a young age that stepbrothers are bad. Hold on, Cinderella. Wasn't this video about the anime where people fight each other even just to greet one another? Hey, whatever, for some reason, which actually doesn't make as much sense as it might seem. Stepbrothers have always had a very bad image in fiction. If not, just ask Jonathan Joestar and his cute, calm, and animal-loving English adoptive brother, tremendous Big Brother the Kid. We could say that despite coming from a manga focused almost entirely on martial arts and therefore on fights and their quality, Jack is a rather atypical character, as we usually find quite generic characters in this type of work. In some cases, but Jack's case is quite different. To understand this, we must first start from the beginning. From the minute. Jack's life was very complicated, and the fact that it was complicated from minute one is not a figure of speech, it's literal. His conception was, let's say, quite aberrant. Yujiro met Jack's mother in the Vietnam War, where he went with the intention of humiliating the United States Army, defeating them with his bare hands. A Canadian soldier woke up overly motivated and eager for comedy that morning and wanted to play a prank on Virgus, giving a little speech to Yujiro in which, among other things, she called him Virgo and that he was just a child. With a lot of force, since at that time Yujiro was only 16 years old. The thing is, well, let's say that messing with Yujiro Hama, maybe, and just maybe, I don't know. It's not the best idea you can have if your intention is not to end up in a wheelchair or in the cemetery. Well, in this case, Yujiro did something very, but very aberrant to this poor girl. Something so ugly that just by mentioning it, YouTube could take down this video. This disgusting and horrible action by Yujiro is the only one I could never justify or accept in any way. Yujiro has done terrible things, but that's beside the point. After this, that woman became pregnant with a boy whom she would call Jack. Despite the traumatic way in which he was conceived, Jack's mother never treated him badly. She lovingly cared for and raised him, planning to eventually tell Jack the whole truth about his father. This created in Jack an extreme feeling of hatred towards Yujiro, while also one of immense love for his mother, as he thought his mother deserved revenge. He felt indebted to his mother because despite everything, she always took care of him. From that moment on, Jack would be a new person with a single goal in life, not to let Yujiro hurt anyone again. Jack began to train, but unfortunately his body couldn't handle his ambition. His intense training regimen led to constant overtraining, slowly suffocating his life. He wasn't getting stronger, he was dying. Baki's creator, Itagaki, learned extensively about sports to make his manga, which is one of Baki's strengths. We can see this in many details of the work, for example, in this training thing. While in other works, the characters train like sick people, and we are led to understand that the more they train, the stronger they will become. Even if they don't rest or nourish themselves properly, they will become stronger. On the other hand, Baki's manga places a strong emphasis on the holy trinity of sports training, without detracting from any of the three rules. I'm referring to training, rest, and nutrition. Jack hardly rested or ate and practically didn't stop even to use the bathroom, literally peeing himself. His determination was extreme. But the human body has limits. That's why Jack craved just that, to break human limits. Small parenthesis. From here on, we're going to talk about certain chemical substances that enhance athletic performance and are usually injectable. You already know asteroids, but changing the first letter to an E. In this video, I'll call it chemistry to avoid platform issues. The thing is, for better or worse for Jack, however you want to see it. Although being Jack, it was a stroke of luck, for reasons I will explain later. A scientist very interested in breaking human limits came across Jack. And could we say it was like putting ketchup on fries? because there was no one better in the world to test these kinds of experimental chemicals than Jack. The scientist confronts Jack outside his gym and asks him why he's doing this to himself, and what Jack told him is priceless.
Hard training is necessary.
What are you doing?
But I want to win against that, man. That's what I want to say. That's how Jack started taking these experimental substances, which caused him unimaginable pain and multiple side effects. He was making it. Finally, he had a huge and powerful body, but not enough.
He needed a body that could withstand even harder training!
And your body is reaching its limit with hard training and doping.
Any more doping? I'm not even considering it while I'm alive. If you're prepared to exchange the strongest body for death, how can you do it?
It's okay for you to become a monster like Frankenstein.
These words from Jack saying he doesn't care if he lives a month or a year as long as he accomplishes his goal. That's the reason why I love this guy so much. And it's that many people judge those who are willing to do anything in their eagerness to achieve their goals. They don't understand why someone would choose to suffer voluntarily with the intention of gaining something. And I perfectly understand Jack's point of view. He wanted to defeat Yujiro Hanma. And to achieve that dream, it was not enough to just become strong. He had to be the strongest man in the world, if you ask me. As long as a person doesn't harm others and only harms themselves to fulfill a dream, who are we to stop them? Mind you, this doesn't apply to illnesses and pathologies like depression or eating disorders. The perception of Jack's obsession is subjective. Some may view him as an obsessed individual.
A maniac.
Or even a madman, but what I see is a committed and dedicated person, a determined person. Jack accepted that if what he wanted was to beat Yujiro, he couldn't consider having a long life. I much prefer a brief life where I've achieved all my goals over a long life without fulfilling any of my dreams. The reason why not everyone reaches high or are crushed by their rivals. Beyond genetic issues, which obviously count. And talent is a reality. But the people who are at the top are there because they were willing to do things that 99.9% of people are not willing to do. Because nobody wants to sacrifice their time playing video games and hanging out with their friends to stay in the gym, training or at home, studying or any activity of the sort. Achieving anything in life is challenging, and despite what some may claim, performance and health are not always aligned. At higher levels, performance becomes the priority, while health is often neglected. Jack's body with Hama genetics allowed him to survive the tremendous punishment he inflicted on himself. Did he achieve his goal? At last he had the power he sought. Finally, he would measure up to his father. In this tournament, Jack would meet his half-brother Baki. This is why Jack seems like such a special character to me. Other characters in Jack's shoes would probably have acquired a rather evil personality. Or if not evil, at least hateful, including toward his brother. Baki is the spitting image of Yujiro, only being a good person. A smaller version of Yujiro. The only bond that unites Jack and Baki is what Jack hates most in this world, his father. But despite this, Jack doesn't hate Baki. He loves him. And Baki is another reason why Jack wants to take down Yujiro. He won't forgive the ogre for making Baki suffer so much. Jack was the main antagonist throughout the entire Underground Arena Tournament saga. Jack had several notable moments, as expected after defeating Andronov Sargon, a man even bigger than himself, to defeating the world's most skilled Aikido master, the great Shibukawa. Like the cherry on top, Jack and Baki gave us their fight, which for me is undoubtedly the best fight of Baki and one of my favorites in the entire history of the anime world. I'm not going to talk about the fight because this is one of those things that are much better to see than to be told about. What I will talk about are the details that Jack had both at the beginning and at the end of this fight. First, treating Baki as if they had been brothers their whole lives, telling him how very proud he is of him. And of course, making a rivalry comment typical of Hamas. And above all, I must highlight the beautiful hug that Jack gave to Baki. Brother.
Is it you?
I knew it was you? Tell me, are you happy for me?
What a pride. I'm impressed that you've achieved it with that body. Don't worry, I'm going to destroy you with all my strength.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. I will do the same.
I really got very emotional about all this, and I didn't see the fight in the same way I thought I was going to see it. They were no longer two enemies, they were two brothers, doing what they know best, beating the crap out of each other. Baki won, and Jack, instead of getting angry or taking it badly, did this. As you can see, Jack is a character of details. He's a reserved guy, but through details, we can really see what he's like. Then an incident occurred between Yujiro and Jack in the parking lot. It would be the saga of the inmates. Understandably, Jack's role diminished in this saga after being the main antagonist in the previous one. Nevertheless, he still provided some interesting moments. The first thing was to tell us about the new friendship between Dr. Kureja and him Kureja at the time. During the tournament, he found out Jack was using chemistry and attempted to stop him. Jack responded firmly, making it clear that he would not be able to stop him. At most, he could incriminate him for using this chemistry, but either way, he lacked the time to do so. To Jack's surprise, Kureja wanted to stop him not for cheating, but for his health. Kureja wanted to stop Jack from using a lethal amount of chemistry to save his life. Jack didn't listen to him. He was totally determined to move forward. But that selfless attempt by Kureja to save his life was etched in Jack's mind. Jack turned to Kureja to undergo an operation in which, through a device that looks like medieval torture, he would stretch his limbs to make himself bigger. This video isn't about yo-yos or that body part. This in order to make himself stronger through more size, reaching a height of over 2 meters and 20 centimeters. A complete monster, Jack. To pay off the debt to Kureja, he went after Doyle, who exploded a bomb in the face of the doctor's brother. But Katsumi and Retsu already took care of giving Doyle his share of love. So Jack set his eye on another prisoner, Sikorsky, a Russian who, curiously, apparently attacked Andrianov Zargon in a cowardly way while he was still recovering from his fight with Jack. Don't you find it curious that Jack is going after a guy who coincidentally attacked a former rival of his who is still recovering without mercy? When I told you earlier that Jack is a character who hides his true face in the details, it wasn't a figure of speech. The fact is that Jack destroyed Sikorsky and let Gaia finish the job. We didn't see him again until the stinky fart who steals brides from Ali Jr. went to confront him. And here occurs another of the memorable scenes of this character Jack is having dinner. And Ali tells him it doesn't matter. He will wait until he finishes. Then Jack says that he now has something much more delicious in front of him than his dinner. To which Ali responds in a low voice, "I'm also going to have fun." As soon as he finishes the sentence, Jack stands in front of him and bluntly says, "Let's go outside." It's a shame that in the Netflix anime, they didn't adapt this scene completely faithful to the manga. Because really, the panel of Jack in front of Lee gives me goosebumps. To put it briefly, Jack punches Lee and cuts his tongue off. Jack's next notable moment occurs in the anime's final chapter, where he is informed that Baki has formally challenged Yujiro to a fight. Jack's reaction is priceless.
What did you say? Baki Hanma dared to challenge his father, Yujiro Hanma. Ayuhiro and Mitsunari, the owner of the underground stadium, approved it.
Here?
It shows a mix of emotions, helplessness, rivalry with his brother, and concern for the latter. Jack would like to be in Bucky's shoes while he is quite worried about him. And even though he doesn't say it and covers it up with rivalry, his reaction is totally disproportionate, considering how extremely cold and calculating this character is. From here on out, the good times are over. We're going to move on to the total decline of Jack Hama. First of all, we're going to talk entirely about the manga from now on. So consider this a warning. Spoilers, during the fight between Baki and Yujiro in Son of Ogre, all the main characters are closely watching the battle, including Jack. Here they started to portray him in a way that has nothing to do with how the character has always been during his own saga and outside of it. Jack is presented to us as someone calm, cold, and who does nothing without a reason behind it. Someone who is always ahead of the game and uncovers everything through mysterious means. Here, they placed him in a foul, decaying room, encircled by pills as though he were an ordinary addict, which, even if true, contradicts the image portrayed of him. And besides, Itagaki has him screaming at the television like a complete brainless neurotic, portraying him as a childish, failed, second-rate clown who has been robbed of his chance. But this was not Jack's lowest moment, because everything starts to get progressively worse. Jack goes to pick a fight with Pickle, that caveman over 8 feet tall who used to brawl with dinosaurs. As we all know, Pickle humiliated Jack in every aspect in a disgusting manner. Beyond their passionate kiss, there are details I want to discuss. While Pickle acknowledged the strength of fighters like Hanayama, of whom he admitted had more strength than a stampeding Triceratops, with Jack, it was the complete opposite. According to the manga's own narration, Pickle saw Jack as mere food, like a tiger would see a gazelle. Jack didn't deserve this treatment. I understand that Pickle had to be obviously stronger. I'm not such a fanboy, but Jack was the one who came out worst against Pickle in terms of character development. Even though Jack put in effort, he did absolutely nothing and ended up looking like a complete fool. Although Jack hits extremely hard, it's unfortunate that his punches didn't damage Pickle, and at least he would have recognized him as somewhat dangerous and not as a damn lunch. After this fight, Jack would completely lose his mind. Apparently, Jack thought the reason he lost to Pickle was due to the size difference, so he lengthened his body again, and oh god. Basically, they reduced the most interesting character of Baki so far to a simple, idiotic neurotic who is sickly obsessed with getting taller. Some compare Jack's situation to Piccolo's, but I disagree, as Piccolo is still respected. Not as someone strong, but very wise. Ignoring the nonsense about him being a nanny, that wasn't true for Jack. Afterwards, Jack hit rock bottom and wanted to confront the legendary samurai Musashi Miyamoto. But Motove, the most disgusting, unnecessary, crappy, and stinky character in this manga, did a tremendous dirty trick to Jack, without any kind of sense or logic. He effortlessly defeated him with a cheap katana, a cigarette, and some rope-bound balls. Or so it seemed. From here on, Jack never did anything noteworthy to this day. Now, I'm going to give a small theory as to why this could have happened, trying to make sense of Jack's current way of acting. Everyone knows that the chemistry Jack uses has side effects. It's possible that, even though Jack's body can withstand the continued use of these drugs thanks to his blood, perhaps his brain cannot. It could be that this sudden change in Jack's attitude is due to the abuse of these substances, as they were totally experimental, and the creator put a bullet in his head. Therefore, there was never a final version of these new drugs. This would explain why he went from being such a cold and sarcastic guy to a clown who only thinks about getting taller and receiving ridiculous beatings. Jack's brain might be fried from too much chemistry, which could explain everything. While I'd still be unhappy about the character's treatment, it wouldn't be a plot hole as massive as Kaoru Hanayama's manhood. Despite everything, Jack remains my favorite Baki character. I'll focus on his good moments and ignore the bad ones. I will pray that Jack receives his deserved redemption in future sagas of the manga. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe and follow me on Twitter and Discord. Check out my gaming and live streaming channels too. Link to everything in the description. Remember that on this channel we are otakus, but all those who leave and have a social life. See you in future videos. Until then.